In the not-too-distant future in Moscow, Oleg and Alyona are going on a date. Oleg reveals that he is a soldier on a mission. The date went well after a 2-week hiatus, and they both end up spending the. Meanwhile, in Paris, a couple spent the night together. The plane is ready to land when, all of a sudden, the lights go out and everyone on board panics. This loss of consciousness occurs quickly. Only power spreads over the planet, abandoning a tiny area of Eastern Europe with Oleg and everyone else. Take note of the drones that fly about. Moscow has frozen in midair, and they hurry to view what's going on in the hotel lobby. Everyone in the structure is gathered there to hear the news. The anchorman clarifies that this was not the case, as a result of any natural calamity, and, at first, they suspected it to be. They believe it is a terrorist strike. They've lost communication with the remainder of the group. Around the world, a squad of troops headed by Mayor Dolmatov is dispatched on a recon mission to one of the several cities. They are now in the dark. Olga is a journalist, goes along with them to document any hints they find. They discover that the government has sent drones already in this field. Nevertheless, none of them. The squad has returned and is wandering about the city and walks inside a business where they, to throw a slime party, utilize special slime lights. Have a look at how they find every individual, even here, is dead. They can't help but notice the fish in the dish. I'm curious how everyone died considering they were there. There are no indications of an assault, as if it happened out of nowhere. They then proceed to study various options, flats in which they can find everything, as if nothing had ever occurred. It appears that it occurred once more. Persons disappeared into thin air in an instant. Suddenly, one of the troops gets shot. The rest were assaulted by an unknown entity. A member of the squad rushes to assist him. Yet as soon as the entity notices them, he seizes the soldier's weapon and flees via. The crew quickly begins firing through the window. Nonetheless, the entity appears unaffected by. They take the weapons and flee. Injured soldier to their jet and request if he saw the face of his assailant. Yet it was gloomy because of the fight. A month makes it hard to observe anything. Later, about 100 million Russians will be believed to be deceased when the administration makes an attempt to persuade the surviving people to remain. Nonetheless, religious groups are quiet, gathered because they believe the end of. Meanwhile, Yura is awaiting the arrival of the rest of the world, one of the several citizens who receives a letter requesting that he join the army. Yura lives with his ailing mother from Alzheimer's disease, and it saddens him to leave. Despite leaving her behind, he joins the army. While he is on his way to the base, he notices the world's present situation since just 1 month was required for the streets will appear in post-apocalyptic era. Eventually joins Oleg's crew, which is Dahl kept them up to date on the present situation. Mod disabled and Colonel Marina in each city. Darkness is regarded as quarantined when the only available power may be discovered in Moscow, Belarus, Ukraine, and this location is known as the Circle in Finland. Several recon teams have returned to life. They've learned they have bodies perished as a result of innate neurotoxins, are substances generated by the human body. The new teams are tasked with 2 responsibilities: discover hints, in order for scientists to comprehend cause and effect of these neurotoxins, further into the exclusion zone, collect resources because Moscow, when supplies are running low, they must exercise caution, since they've already deployed a large number of teams, and most of them never returned. If they had tanks to keep them safe, more volunteers are being prepared by everyone. Oleg is shocked to see them. Alyona amid them, an alarm sounds off, warning of an impending assault. There appears to be a large number of. As the enemies approach, so do the soldiers assemble at the base's boundary, as well as the quarantine zone at the time. The electricity goes out at the base, thus, Dolmatov starts filming flares for a movie. More distinct vision, and when the troops are near enough to the creatures, some of these entities were able to open fire, to get to the bottom of any case and start assaulting everyone in sight, forcing Oleg to suffer, to lose consciousness the following morning. Oleg awakens with the weight of a dead body on his shoulders. Yura, his adversary, discovers that he is still alive and well. Oleg now requests assistance in moving his body. Can tell that the weird entity was in reality, there are dozens of them. Naked bodies on the opposite side of the fence border, and no one understands why. Act as though Olga is also present. Oleg is filming everything for the news. Is transported to the hospital and she was astonished to find that Alien is a doctor, cares for his injuries as well as when she comforts him with a kiss when she senses his distress. Meanwhile, Marina and Dolmatov talk, a collection of persons concerned with sensor issues that allegedly got abilities following the Blackout. Marina clarifies that they aren't sensors, like superheroes may actually receive information in their heads like radios, receiving signals they haven't, though, figured out a way to decode the data. This occurred because the strongest sensor is Sasha, who is being held in a military hospital because of the ongoing darkness, having dreams concerning an unknown. Today, a bald man is being visited by Genya, who claims to have been sent by someone. He discusses the first wave by name. All gadgets were damaged a second time. began the self-destruction of all biological entities, as well as the third wave, will cause everybody who is still alive in there are quarantine zone attacks on them. Tens of millions of them and their freedom of choices. They're gone, but they still have time to stop it. Sasha has no desire to get involved with this and requests security, but the troops cannot see Zhenya and inform the doctor that Sasha is hallucinating for the rest of the time. Soldiers prepare for the operation. Ira eventually travels with Olga, makes him answer some camera questions. Ira acknowledges that he doesn't mind the current situation, since it has given him his life, meaning because it's preferable to being a cab driver. When they arrive at they uncover the tanks in the quarantine zone, ruins on the ground and a chasm slicing across the structures to suggest the third wave has already started. The footage of horrific devastation puts the surviving populace is terrified, resulting in rioting and increased crime. Pace of taking over the city. Government pledges are being worked on, because many believe their leaders are. The troops are concealing something. To cover more land, divide into groups. Ira and Olga belong to Group 7, and as they cross the woods with a tense feeling, when a recovered Oleg comes between them. As he arrives, he joins Team 4, which explores one of the little towns. Soldiers break up a storage area, creating a fire. A slew of metal bars to land on top of. As he falls and injures his leg, the squad decides to rest indoors till a doctor arrives. Alyony arrives the next morning and declares that the soldier will have to, if he does not, return to Moscow with her. Wish to get rid of his leg. Group 7 additionally spent while spending the night inside an apartment. They are consuming breakfast. Yura takes note, something strange about a store he visits. Olga's performance as well as validating the doors were closed when Yura and her friends arrived. Several troops enter the shop and discover proof that someone was present. They decide to put up some traps. Return to your residence and await them. This does not occur when traps are activated. Till nightfall, everyone prepares to. Yura requests that Olga remain inside and tells her how to use the flares to ask questions. If they do not return, ask for assistance. Olga eventually disobeys Yura and follows the squad to videotape everything on the inside. They discover a teenager who was harmed by the traps into which they drag him, the residents, and try to assist him, but in response, the child steals a knife and when one soldier is killed, the others follow suit. Meanwhile, respond by shooting him down. Sasha walks outside to get some fresh air. Hospital's roof and is terrified by the idea of the man Zhenya told him about. Zhenya had simply been a mental link, but it is present and desires Sasha to assist in convincing him that he understands what's going on. He then displays his face and reveals himself. He was not human at that time. Marina arrives with a slew of troops, aiming their rifles in its direction, but they all switch their guns on at the same time. Marina reveals how he exploited his mental abilities, the ability to make the soldiers perceive her as she shouldn't attempt it since she's Marina. He also insists he's on Marina's shoulder and informs her that millions of people like her. When he arrives, he will put an end to humanity. Marina inquires as to what he is, and it is stated that he is a human, would regard him as a deity, and Marina accepts it. To her office to question him, reveals that he was meant to begin in when the moon was exposed to radiation higher than the oceans, yet he made a mistake. This area of the sky was obscured by the moon. Europe was therefore shielded from radioactivity. That is how the circle of life came to be, as well as everyone in the quarantine zone. Only a mindless drone will launch an assault. This race will soon require, due to their own company is going to fail, and they want then somewhere fresh with the sun to live. He exposes the existence of Wave 0. This wave existed thousands of years ago. The human race, which is a bioweapon. Aliens sent to exterminate the natives. That was the Earth's population. Previous indigenous peoples who constructed them. Because of the pyramids and underwater cities, these were far more developed beings, are an ideal bioweapon because they are colonists and destroyers, and they have a lot of genetics in common with their people, but they were devoid of any psychic abilities. The unintended radiation has abilities, prompting some people, such as Sasha, to become. They support an army from their planet. It will arrive tomorrow, but its brother Ra will not. Already present, it contradicts his ways and wishes to locate him, but only one person is aware of the location. Sasha, as a result of his dreams. In the meanwhile, all of the teams are unexpectedly mind-controlled people assaulted them. Soldiers quickly open fire and attempt to kill. They tried their hardest to develop a line of defense, but the adversary arrives in force, numbers, and has no difficulties fighting back and killing the majority of the squads, as well as causing them to run out of ammunition when the flat where they are hiding catches fire. Yura requests that Olga shoot the flare, but the majority of teams are doing the same thing, and there are insufficient resources to assist. For the time being, the few remaining Group 7 members will wait on the roof, a structure to be out of the way. Marina's chat is reached by the attackers. It is broken up by a message, alerting her about the incident and its consequences, reminds them that they are wasting their time. Of them, together with Zhenya and Sasha, fly to the bottom as well as on the journey. reveals that he is immortal as long as no one dies, decides to murder him when they arrive at. Sasha is placed into a trance by the base. He is able to determine Ra's location. It intends to build a skyscraper in Kirov. Activate the remaining tropes. Nevertheless, when Dolmatov sees it, he appears to be untrustworthy. At that point, a soldier announces, Moscow is also being targeted. Marina persuades Domatov by mentioning that is their sole hope of returning to Group 7. They decide to scale the skyscraper, to look for clubs that did not send. If there are any flares, Olga is frightened of trying. Yura kisses her to soothe her, and, when they walk through, he gently lowers her. They locate a few people on the streets, and murder them before even speaking to them. Olga is irritated by this since look good, but Yura reminded her of. At first, the teenage male appeared to be okay as well. As if to demonstrate his thesis, a new wave of human drones attack them all the time. Soldiers are killed, but Yura continues to battle. The assailants were injured they fled to hide inside a garage during the operation. Places where they look after you if you get hurt and locate a vehicle with gas and keys to use. To flee at the bottom, Sasha admits. He's afraid to go because he's so raw. Saw him throughout the vision and it enabled to remain behind for the sake of his. When Dolmatov's team departs, Marina discovers the tank Sasha is missing and causes everyone to come to a halt at that. When a barrage of missiles assaults the base, then blasted up, Marina indicates going to be upset because he plainly it was aware of this and accepts that it is correct. Yet, if Sasha had been present, instead, they would have died, would not have won the war the next year. Yura and Olga discover Oleg in the morning. And everything. Their squad has a few people remaining as well. Fortunately, they've run out of ammunition. Dolmatov's crew eventually locates them and invites them to participate in the endeavor to slay Ra. Olga and Alyona will be required to come along because there is no place to stay. Send them to the team hours later. Kirov comes Phil as moderator off. They're amazed they haven't been assaulted. And that explains why Ra believes he died at the base of the streets is obstructed by drone people, of which there are a handful. The army is dropping bombs from above, just advances with the tanks, firing or smashing any adversary, tries to stop them when they arrive at. It takes Yura and a few others to build a tower. Soldiers accompany him to the rooftop while everyone else remains at the entryway. Defense. The combat is really brutal, and they don't know how long they'll be there. Be able to stay up, allowing Oleg to seize the lead. Folks upstairs as well after murdering someone. Adversaries within it and troops meet. On the rooftop with Ra. Yura, she makes an attempt to assault him. Ra, on the other hand, merely pushes him away and abandons him on the ledge. It then attacks Ra, and their combat begins. Nevertheless, as Yura climbs back up, suddenly there is a massive explosion on the streets. Ra becomes distracted, and it requires the opportunity to personally attack him, extracting an object from within Ra's body. Yura jumps in right away and places a. Finally, a grenade was thrown into the resultant hole. Murdering Ra may now use his abilities too. He should free all of the people he has influence over. Declares that the next step is to eliminate the alien species have been coming into the spacecraft since. After all, humans were designed to kill. Shenya is perplexed as to why it did not happen. Remind them of everything before a blackout occurred, as well as Alyona and Marina oppose the manner in which it is being used. When it claims he is the god, Genya assaults him with a knife. Yet, it employs his abilities to force him to kill. Instead, angry Oleg attempts to assault it as well, but Yura intervenes. That is the only hope, according to the defense. They have a defense against the impending invasion. A battle between Yura and Oleg begins. As Olga observes Yura hitting Oleg, she intervenes. She gets up and grabs a pistol and fires at Yura. Make him stop trying to kill it again, but he is easily stopped by Oleg. They consider it murdering Yura. Both perish as soon as they come into contact with. At the time, a massive spacecraft was on Earth. Lands on a number of structures Oleg seizes. It took the device from Raw Meat to leaves. After declining to finish with the woman, after removing several firearms from her, the trio of fallen bodies enters because of the spacecraft that opened the door. There are raw innards yearning for it. Hundreds of aliens snoozing in pods. When Oleg pushes the gadget, oxygen is released, begins to be transferred to those pods. It appears that Ra was meant to wake them up. Up in the pods, timer verifies. They'll be ready soon and will test the firing at them and check that it kills them. But they do not have enough ammunition or time to complete them. All the pipes are noticed by Olga. The oxygen carriers are on the floor, and destroying one kills numerous aliens at the same time. At the same time, the trio begins to demolish every pipe they can effectively locate, halting the invasion. But when Alyona is on the verge of destroying the last pipe, she becomes paralyzed as she realizes the children are in the last pod, start departing the pods as well as when Oleg. As he sees them, he throws his weapon on the ground. Terrain is incapable of causing harm to innocent people. Creatures, be certain to subscribe and activate alerts to allow you to watch more. Thank you for watching the video.